Welcome back to the Daily Bruins. We are here to discuss the recent choice that King George II made about switching his trust from the trustees to his royal governors to keep charge of Savannah, Georgia. So for those of you who don't know James Oglethorpe, he was one of the 21 trustees to sign the charter in 1732. Yet he was the only one to arrive in Georgia. The charter of 1732 was a document that King George II gave to Oglethorpe and his 20 trustees. The rules on the document state that the trustees cannot own land, hold public office, or make a profit from the colonies. All the colonists received the same amount of land unless they paid for the trip and received 500 acres. In addition to those rules, rum and liquor were banned. Slavery was also banned, and land can only be inherited by men. However, lawyers said Catholics were not allowed to get on the boat, which was called the Anne. Sources say that when he set foot on Yamakura land, he met Chief Tanachichi. Due to the language barrier, they weren't able to talk, and later on, this translator named Mary Musgrove was able to translate, and so they became really good friends. One of her parents were half English, and the other was half Indian. She was successfully able to translate for the two men, which became really good friends later on. Okay, according to the treaty, the colonists were to plant the mulberry trees to receive silkworms, plant indigo, which served as blue dye, and grapes to help produce wine, which is absurd because they weren't allowed to drink it or sell it to the Indians. Later in the years, a group of 42 Jewish men and women arrived in Georgia on the ship called the William and Sarah. Sources say Oglethorpe was surprised about them coming to Savannah. However, he did not know how to handle them because the other trustees weren't with him. However, that choice was soon made after he heard of the physician named Samuel Nunes, which he believed could help many of the colonists who were suffering from the sickness called yellow fever. Due to their help, because the doctor helped them to to help their disease, he presented at least 14 Jews with a plot of land. Many other groups of individuals arrived in Savannah later on, much like the Salzenbergs in 1934 after being expelled from Austria for not being Catholic. When they arrived, they created a town called Ebenezer, which is among the Savannah River. However, the land was too swampy and very unhealthy for them. Later on, they relocated to another town called New Ebenezer, which was also near the Savannah River. When Oglethorpe found them, he allowed them to stay because, number one, they opposed slavery, which means they were hard workers, which also includes that they hate alcohol as well. Number two, they were Protestants, which was not against the charter. And finally, number three, they were known to be excellent farmers who were also successful for raising cattle and producing timber. Another rather energetic group is called the Highland Scots, which came in abundance with 177 settlers coming to Georgia in 1736 from Scotland. They established the town Darien south of Savannah, known for their bravery and determination in battle, and because they opposed slavery, Oglethorpe grew an interest in them, and fortunately they protected the Georgia colony from the Spanish. Down in Florida, they fought in a war called the Battle of Bloody Marsh, and they won. There were many other groups who helped James Oglethorpe also in this fight, and his fellow colonies, said they would be here there were many other groups who helped James Oglethorpe and his fellow colonies. Now remember, we will be here all day. If you do want to know more about them, stay tuned to watch the New History Bruins at 8:30 on Channel 21.
Now that we're back, we will be talking about the causes of King George II's choices. The main individuals that caused the recent choice of George II were the malcontents, who paid for their own voyage to Georgia. Due to this payment, they were not as loyal towards the trustees in Britain. However, the trustees, although they aided most of the Georgia settlers who came, they were much help to the malcontents. One of the main reasons the malcontents wanted to move to Georgia is so that they could own vast amounts of land and own extreme amounts of slaves to do the work for them. Even though when they arrived on the boat to get to Georgia, they were told of the restrictions. Another one of the main reasons that George II received control of the colonies was that a few years before the Battle of Bloody Marsh, there was the War of Jenkins' Ear. In an attempt to retrieve St. Augustina, George Oglethorne failed to achieve his goals, and when England caught wind of this a few years later, he was sent back to England, where he would stay there and never return back to his colony again. Although Oglethorne was clear of his charges, he would never return back to his colony because of the many problems that Georgia had faced. Now that our brief history lesson is over, we will be discussing the new royal governors. For those of you who do not know, our first royal governor was Captain James Ranald. He was much too stern and tried to rule Georgia as if it were a ship. Because of this, he was extremely unpopular and was replaced 3 years later upon his arrival. The next royal governor, Henry Ellen, was actually concerned about Georgia and taught the colonists about self-government, budgets, and defenses. While he was extremely popular with the Indians, legislature, and colonists, he had to resign his position because of the extreme heat in Georgia, and his health wasn't that good to start with. Our newest governor, Sir James Wright, is the most successful out of the last two royal governors so far. He has a great relationship with the legislature, and he negotiated treaties with the Indians. He's opened millions of acres for settlement, and because of him, Georgia was able to prosper and grow faster than any other colony under the English rule. By now we know how much you want to go to Georgia. So now here's something for you to sweeten the deal for even the sourest of lemons. For you rich folks out there, you will now be able to purchase whatever amounts of land you wish, and own an abundance amount of slaves to help out on the fields. And finally, after much deliberation, you will now be able to sell liquor to Indians and purchase whatever amount of wine you'd like. Thank you so much for tuning into the Daily Bruins today, and we hope you tune in for the next showing at 8, where we will be discussing about deadly germs. We will see you next time on Daily Bruins.